Well, first off, I always thank my precious Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for this opportunity. My full name is Antoine McFarland Head II. I'm a proud 2006 grad, RTB, and really what drove me to the academy was, it was a place of the best and the brightest. So I felt like I was one of those individuals and I wanted to challenge myself to a whole nother level. Little did I know how much challenge I was actually getting into, but in those moments, I wanted to get to that level to find out more about myself, to grow, to be stretched, and to become a better human being overall. Well, I would describe myself as a jack of all trades. I'm a author, I'm a military member, I was a cadet, I'm a professional athlete. I I love mentoring, coaching, public speaking. I am a person that you could describe as an octopus because I want to touch as many different spaces and people and things and make sure that every talent that I've been blessed to have and been given, I can utilize in every facet possible. So I'm just thankful to be a connector type of individual and willing to just put myself out there in any aspect that I can to be helpful, to encourage, to inspire, to lead, and to grow this next generation to be even better than myself. Man, my journey is technically I'm still on it in so many ways. I was fortunate enough to be an intercollegiate athlete at the Air Force Academy. We had a phenomenal run there. I mean, we definitely sold out games, changed the whole landscape of the basketball and sports environment. And my fellow 06 classmates followed suit. So it was just a great year to be a cadet. After that, I was offered contracts by the Denver Nuggets and the San Antonio Spurs to continue to play professionally. But at that time, the ruling and everything that was transpiring with the Department of Defense, we just had the nuclear mishap from Minot to Barksdale, and it really wasn't afforded to me to be able to continue on at that time. So I raised my hand. I definitely wanted to serve my country, and I'm proud to do it. And it was a good experience. I was a staff officer pretty much my entire career. Started off in Maxwell in Alabama. So it was working with ROTC, which was a little bit of a culture shock too, coming from the academy. So I got to learn exactly how the whole officer machine works and, other ways and implications and just the way universities ran their programs versus the academy is definitely a difference for sure, but they still produce great officers the same way we do. So it was very eye-opening for me from there. And then just got to travel, went to Germany, did some other stuff, some special ops stuff down at Herbert Fields and Eglin and Seymour Johnson. So it was good. I mean, I definitely got well indoctrinated as far as into the Air Force and got to do a lot of cool things, a lot of memorable TDYs, worked for a lot of great leaders in the same right and generals that just really helped mold and mentor me to even be outside the suit, even be a better person in that regard as well. So I'm very blessed and fortunate to have the mentors and leaders that I had during that time and just was able to maneuver and be a part of some special things that are still happening right now in the military. Writing is definitely something that's always been a stress management tool for me. So I've been writing poetry, man, probably since roses are red, violets are blue when I was in high school, trying to get a date. But now I've definitely matured that writing, and I understand that emotional intelligence and emotional maturity is something that a lot of men lack, in the United States and the world for that matter. And it's something that I really wanted to tap into myself because I'd never like to give any advice or tell people to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So I was willing to take that deep dive, into my emotional maze and understand that, expressing that through my words is something that I want people to be able to relate to. I want them to be able to feel it. I want them to be able to take away those valuable nuggets of life and wisdom and understanding that are critical in any path that you take in life. Because without that emotional connection and without that, spiritual growth as well, it's really hard to be the person you're supposed to be. And it's really hard to manage your stress of life because you have, no other outlet to put it in if you're not talking about it or writing it or communicating it in a healthy way. And you can only, exercise for so long. You can write for so long. So, I want people to realize there are multiple ways to manage your stress, and you have to find out who you are on the inside, because you can't give what you don't have. And I want people to first get it for themselves. So that way they can give it to others and be better people, and, be better spouses and partners and friends and leaders and across the board. The title of my book is Hood Thoughts too. So it's definitely a play on words, my last name being Hood, and then I am the second. So, and basically it's just kind of my thoughts. So it took me, man, I would say about a year and a half to compile the first montage of poems that I'd put together. And I mean, it was just a daily thing. It's definitely a lot of respect for those who don't know how difficult it is to be an author or a writer. It takes a lot of discipline and a lot of commitment to continue to grind it out each and every day, because there are some days you want to be inspired and other days are less inspiring than others. And I think everybody can relate to that. But when you're on a goal and you have a mission, you have to dig in deep and find that inspiration from anything. So I felt like when I did release the book, I haven't marketed as much as I need to, just because having full custody of my kids, being a single father, has been a lot to deal with in general. So that has maybe taken away a little bit of the attention that I need to put on it as far as marketing and promoting and finding a publicist to get it out there. But from the people that did receive it and read it, from the couple speeches and opportunities I had to go and talk about the book, it was well received, and a lot of people felt like they could feel the words. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I want to touch people at those deepest emotional and spiritual levels, because that is how true change happens. And I know that it has to start from within to become something that you can really hold on to and grow through life. Because without it, like I said, it's almost impossible when you're hiding from yourself and taking your emotions out in a negative way on the people you love and care about. And I think there's enough hate and anger in the world already. So if we can learn ourselves and learn how to discipline those thoughts and discipline those emotions and properly, demonstrate them, then we can definitely make huge gains and bounds personally, professionally, with the people we care about and even the ones we don't. Okay, well, athletically, I think there's they call it the zone, right? There's a level that any athlete at any level, especially with the Olympics going on, that can relate to knowing that once you've put in so much time, or 10,000 hours, as they say, to become an expert in your craft, it's the ability to just react. You're not thinking, you were just literally in a flow. And I think through sports, it's inspired me to know that that zone that a lot of us can get into and out of, and some have a hard time getting into, is directly, it's not just tied to athletics, right? It's one thing to be in that zone when I'm on the basketball court, but it's another thing to be in that zone with my family or my spouse or my partner or my loved ones or friends or parents. And I think that I understood that emotion, that lack of emotional maturity and intelligence is very, very apparent in athletes, male, female, black, white, brown, or otherwise, because we're so engulfed into the sport, right? That's how we express our stress. That's how we express everything. It's like, it almost can define us as a person. And that's something that I never wanted to be defined as an athlete. I wanted to be defined as a man. I will always be Antoine first. And then sports and athletics was just the way I expressed myself. Is the same thing as with poetry, and the same thing with the military. So I think if we get too focused and centered on one thing of expression, it can be very, very counterintuitive into our emotional health and growth, because it's not going to happen, because we don't know how to do anything outside of that one thing. And the same thing with the military. When you get to a certain rank and you start getting more responsibility and you start getting in charge of more people, you start to drink your own Kool-Aid in so many ways. And you think that you're at this level of invincibility and this level of untouchable, to where if you leave the military, that it can't function without you. And that's so far from the truth. So one of my great mentors actually told me that if I fill up a bucket of water with ice and I put my finger in it, that is how much it means when I leave the military, regardless of my rank, regardless of the accolades, regardless of the ribbons. The machine will not stop moving. And that's no knock, to the Air Force or Department of Defense in any means at all. It's just the principle of there's someone else that will pick up the torch and keep it going, which is why, the United States is such a great country. And same thing in sports, right? When you think a team can't make it because of your level or you're this and you're that. Yeah, the impacts you have and the leadership, we're all unique individuals, but at the end of the day, the machine will not stop. There's someone else is going to come aboard, and hopefully they have their own insights and their own talents and abilities that can take, whether it be military, whether a team or athletically, to a whole nother level. And it might not be the way that you did it personally, but it will be a way. And I think understanding that really helps you realize that tomorrow is not promised, and the impact you have is only in the present. And the more present that we can stay with the right type of health, physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, we can be a lot more impactful and a lot more purposed in those moments versus being living in the future or being stuck in the past. If I had advice to give with someone wanting to be an author, I would tell them that it's a deep dive. It's a deep dive into your soul. I mean, it's you really find out a lot about yourself, because regardless of the type of writing or authoring that you were doing, it's like you're pouring your soul into the pages, and I think every good author or good poet or good iconic figure that we've seen in this space, that's what you feel when you read their words, because that's how authentic it has to be. So I think you might actually shock yourself. And I understand why a lot of people don't finish their works, is because either you are not as authentic as you thought you were, or that you might not be at a level of maturity that you thought you were either. And you can expose yourself. And it's one of the hardest things in life that I've experienced, is looking up and looking in the mirror thinking like, wow, am I really ready to put my heart on these pages for the world to see, to be criticized, to be loved, to be impartial, you never know how it's going to be received with the world either. So it's a big leap, and, it takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of tenacity to finish that goal, and let alone begin it in the first place. When I did enter the academy, as far as athletically, I think anybody that plays any sport would like to get to the highest level. So for me, that was the NBA. So I felt, when I started playing basketball, I wanted to make it to the NBA, clearly. And then when you actually get to college and start competing against other universities and people, and you start to see them transition to the next level, it becomes a lot more reality. And I could start to feel that my skill set and my talent were starting to elevate to that level, because guys that I were playing against were getting drafted and, successful in the NBA. And I'm thinking, wow, if this guy can do it, and I know that I've put in my 10,000 hours, I'm putting in my effort every day of practice, I'm definitely going above and beyond. I mean, it was at the point to where I would break into the gym, at the academy at nighttime to shoot extra shots. So I was on top of getting my homework done, on top of waking up, on top of everything else. So I was determined to, elevate my game to a level and leave a legacy, which I'm very fortunate to have done, where they're, retiring our team here in September, and, get to the top 25, reach the NCAA tournament. I mean, just have the impact on the kids and the community and families and just the university itself at the academy. Like, that's something that people will always remember. And it's just a blessing to know that all the efforts and time and dedication I put into it while I was there was rewarded. And that's something that I've kept with me, going into the professional ranks. Even though I'm living it in reverse in so many ways, I understand that, I'm a very goal-driven individual, and that I have the talent and ability. And I've been told by the best trainers and top coaches in the NBA, and across the world, that I have what it takes to be at that level. And, I've just been fortunate to just get back from working out with the Orlando Magic as well. And, it's just a continued testament that, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, I have, purposed and dedicated, putting in the time and effort to make sure that I'm staying sharp in each one of these areas. And it's just starting to show up even more so as I continue to grow and continue to dig into myself and learn different nuances about the game of basketball and just about myself as being a man. And it's starting to come together. And I think the leadership that I've been I guess, bathed in fire, for lack of better words, through the academy and through the Air Force has made me a very special individual when it comes to being able to connect people, to get people on a common goal, and to lead them, to the promised land, for lack of better words, too. So I'm excited to know now that I do have what it takes, and really the only missing piece to my puzzle is that last push from, the right individuals, the right advocates, the correct timing for that to align for me to get a contract and, finish this journey of athletics that I'm on, and really inspire any kid that has had any adversity or setback or anything, when, it looks the grimmest or the darkest, that if you just keep believing and you keep grinding and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I don't care if you can't walk, if you can't run, then you crawl, and even those baby steps, as long as you're taking those steps, as long as you're continuing to believe and push and, be positive and focus on the things that are good in your life and that are happening, and separate yourself from the energy vampires and those that aren't for you, that there's nothing that you can't accomplish. Now, is it a journey and a process? For sure. But how long are you willing to take that ride? How much gas are you going to put in your vehicle to keep going? Or if you're a Tesla, how many stop and charges are you going to keep doing? You got to refuel, you got to keep going, you got to keep pushing. And I just want that testimony to be for anyone who's ever wanted something, that you can and you will have it, regardless if you have kids, regardless if you got divorced, regardless if you got kicked out of the military, DUI, whatever your story is, you can still make it if you are willing to purpose your time, effort, and energy, and not give up. Number one, time management. I cannot stress that enough. Being a single father and having, two boys and full custody of them, I getting them to school, getting up. So every minute counts. So when I get them up, get them to school, I'll either, get, after I drop them off, I'm straight to the gym, and I'll get my weight training, or I'll do my hot yoga, hot Pilates in the morning, get that out. And then I'll get on the basketball court after they get home from school, or in between that time of, I'll say around lunchtime or so, I'll get in the gym, get me a good hour, 2 hours in. And then after that, I'll get with my shooting coach, and then get it all in until I get home to pick them up from school, or be home when they get off the bus. So it's a very, very rigorous schedule. And it's, it's just something that I've purposed and dedicated. If there's a will, there's a way. And sometimes I have to adjust if I got a, baseball practice or soccer practice or a track meet or whatever the case may be. I sit down on Sunday nights, plan out my calendar, and then do my best to stick to that and adjust accordingly. And, just find time, when you want to. And I've try to minimize my distractions when it comes to social media and, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, all that stuff. I try to keep that in a window of time as well. So therefore I can make sure I am present and I'm focused, as a man, as a father, in the gym, talking to people, whatever I'm interacting with. I want to be present in each one of those moments, because that might be my last moment. And if that is my last moment, I want to be remembered as someone that was, intentional and purposed, rather than someone that was aloof and living in the future or stuck in the past. So it's been, I'm very blessed to, take care of myself. My diet is something that I've definitely, it's probably been my Achilles heel up until this point. So I really focused on that as well. So that type of regimen of eating clean and cutting out the junk and the sugar and, all the other things has been extremely beneficial, because, it's not like I'm 25 years old anymore. So I have to use every edge and every opportunity to stay at that high level, and, health as well. So I know my diet is something that'll be with me the rest of my life, and I only get one body. And I tell people all the time. So if I give it a good blueprint now, as I continue to get younger, as they say, and more wiser, I will be able to just slow the clock down even more, and prayerfully live to be 100 and something, and, still be sharp and witty and all the charismatic and all those good things, and not miss a beat until my last breath. Yeah. So the Air Force Academy, I tell people it's like a 4-year or 5-year degree if you're a prep schooler in crisis management, right? It's the equivalent of drinking from a fire hose. So from a physical standpoint, you are going to be in shape, whether you like it or not. Everybody's built different. Everybody has different body types, but you are going to be physically fit to some level, just because of basic training, because of the activities. If you're not an athlete, you're at intramurals, you have we have obstacle courses, all different types of events and things that go on to where you are going to be physically in a good condition. So that's something that I think is almost inevitable coming from, USAFA. So from an emotional standpoint, I think that will probably be the hardest pillar because there are times where you just don't want to do it. I mean, I think anybody that's graduated from the academy, that's been to the academy, that left the academy, that came back to the academy can relate to. There are some dark days where you're like, why am I doing this? You got 4 tests the next day. It's, 10 o'clock at night. You haven't done your online homework. You haven't done a paper. And it's just every teacher has a PhD mentality. So emotionally, then you got your squadron duties, you got your peers, your friends, your whatever sort of social life that you attempt to have. And it's just a lot of pressure. Then you got your family and, parents weekend, all these things coming at you in all these different ways. And emotionally, it can be very, very overwhelming. And if you don't have a tribe or you don't have someone to lean on, you're not your own best counselor. So I think that aspect is extremely difficult. And I think as young, 17 to 20 to 21-year-olds to 22, the academy can also improve with its, on the terrazzo. I know the grass is extremely important and the air gardens and all those things, but I feel reflection from an emotional aspect during those times is something that's really, really needed. I know I needed it when I was a cadet, and I'm sure many of my peers could echo the same, that we don't have a lot of common areas outside where you can just sit down and reflect. Sometimes you just want to be outside. I mean, Colorado's a beautiful place. If there were some benches or we could dedicate some picnic tables or something to just all of the, mighty warriors and people that have come through the academy and just give people an opportunity to sit outside and soak up, what they're feeling. If they got to cry, they cry. If they got to yell, they yell. If they just need somebody to talk to, those opportunities outside of our dorm rooms, would, I think, make huge strides in the emotional piece of the academy. So mentally, I would say is on the same boat because you can only, there's no such thing as a true multitasker. You can only do so many things at a time. So mentally I like to call it juggling, right? You have so many balls and they just keep adding more and more to it. And you can only touch 2 balls at a time. So you got to know how to shift your mental energy and focus to what's important. And you got to prioritize correctly, because if you have bad priorities, you will not make it through the academy. And I think, once again, people that have graduated know that, hey, if I need 85 in Astro to graduate, then I need to put a lot of effort and energy into Astro, even though physics is also important, but something's got to give. You can only do so much at a time. So that mental aspect can also be very draining. And, you got to be able to recharge from that aspect as well. So mentally it's just as critical. And then from a spiritual standpoint, I think that's probably the most important pillar of growth, because if you don't have any hope, you're probably one of the worst people on the planet, because hope is what everything else is derived from. If you don't hope, you can't dream. If you can't dream, you can't have faith. If you don't have any faith, you can't get to that level of believing in something bigger than yourself. And I think as a former cadet, I mean, even as a man now, that alignment and that capability to take a step back and realize that it's going to be okay, that I'm going to get through this, that, everything only lasts for a moment. So if we can just grasp that from a spiritual standpoint, from that component, regardless of what your beliefs are or where you're coming from, you have to have some sort of higher power, universal connection to get you through these really, really tough times, because adversity and conflict are constant, and they're never going to go away for anybody on this planet, regardless of if you're a cadet colonel, if you're a billionaire. We all have issues, and handling those issues by ourselves in our own minds with bad counsel never ends well for anybody. So yeah, those 4 pillars are definitely key just in life, and definitely through the academy. And I think when you put the right attention on the physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional, it helps you grow, and it helps you through those moments that most people can't get through. And I think when you feel that you have arrived at one of those pillars, you probably haven't, and you probably need to be more focused on that one, because that's when you can definitely have some catastrophe come into play in a lot of different ways. So I'm I'm excited and I'm fortunate to have had good peers and other cadets where we had, late night talks and just talk about life, and, sitting in the Chow Hall, Mitchell Hall after practice and just talking to, other ICs, and just really just being kids, you know what I mean? Being college students. And it's that feeling really helped, and that camaraderie really helped me. And I know it helped a lot of my peers get through, because those moments are so few and far between. But if you don't purpose those times to get to know your peers outside of the uniform, outside of the sport, and just down to the bare bones of who they are as people, and connect, with them on that level, it can get very, very difficult, and even harder than it has to be. Well, I think now, if for someone looking to be a professional athlete, the business starts now. I think with the new NCAA rules, with the likeness and all these other different avenues and capabilities of people being able to get their name out there with the social media and all that stuff, I think you have to understand, even right now, if you're a freshman, or prep schooler, you're already in it. It's already started. And if you're a senior, it's already started, right? So you have to understand the business aspect of sports. Now, is there a level of talent you have to be at? Of course. But do I honestly believe that any Division I athlete across the country or across the world that played at a high level can play at the next level? Yes, I do. I think there are some people that put in more effort and more time, and some people are just more gifted because they're more focused, and because they have been, they were born 6'9", or they were born 6'11", or they were born with fast twitch muscles. They can run a 4.5, or they can pitch 120 miles per hour. I mean, that's a little extreme, but or they can run the 100-meter dash in 9 seconds. I mean, those type of things they're gifts, and those people, if you have them, you still have to work hard and put in the effort, because no one is naturally given anything outside of just your physical abilities, but you still have to work at them to get them to a level, of top-notch extremism, if you will, to get that type of notoriety. But I will say, you have to be intentional on your relationships. I think that is the biggest component of the professional sport arena, is relationships. And you have to understand who those people are, how impactful your coaching staff is for you at your school. I mean, that goes a very, very long way as well. So building those relationships, having the right type of advocates, whether it be an agent, whether it be an alumni, whether it be your parents, if they've had any professional sports or management type of background, all those things, culminate to you being able to get to the next level. Now, do you have to be talented? Yes. But do you have to be the, Wayne Gretzky, LeBron James, Tiger Woods of your craft, Michael Phelps, Usain Bolt? No, you don't. I mean, somebody has to get silver, someone has to get bronze. So there's still opportunities to be the best version of yourself, and you have to be authentic in that as well, because that translates into interviews, it translates into sponsorships, it translates into market development, all of that stuff. People are looking for authenticity. And I think if people just stay true to who they are, then you can definitely make an impact and get to that next level, just being yourself instead of trying to be someone that you're not. If I had one dream right now, that I could fulfill, I would be playing for the Denver Nuggets. So, I mean, I consider myself a hometown kid. Denver was the first organization that showed interest in me. I mean, I worked out, no exaggeration, at least 10 to 11 times before the draft in 2006. And I competed against some of the top guards in my draft class, and I did well. I set all of their records for hand-eye coordination, bench press, speed for guards. So Denver definitely has a near and dear place. I mean, that was my first time playing against Carmelo Anthony, you know what I mean? And Allen Iverson and those guys. And it was just, those are memories that I will always cherish as an athlete. And I love Colorado. I mean, it's been my second home outside of Texas. It's the longest place I've ever lived. outside of the great state, or the third coast, as I like to call it. So if there are roots that I've, planted down and put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, it would definitely be in the greater Denver, Colorado Springs area. Well, I think for anything in life, life's all about change. Change is a constant. And I think the transition, for myself included, I think we all know when it's time to hang up the suit. I think whether it be a commander, whether it be a peer, whether it be your family, whether it be whatever other aspiration or dream that we've had, while we've been in the suit, that's starting to just really swell up inside, and you start to interact with different people and the alignment and things that are happening. I think it's imperative that we are aware and present in those moments and know that when it's time, it's time. And I think no one can tell you when that time is, but if you do have an opportunity on the outside, whether from a friend or a peer, coworker, or maybe an old commander or leader that that got out and they're doing great things and they're calling you to help them out, I think you have to jump. I think that's the time where everything you've invested into the military and the Air Force and, Department of Defense, is now time to take that and utilize it in a different lane. And I think let go of the fear. I mean, there's nothing to be afraid of. You've served, you've done what less than 1% protects the other 99. And that's not something to be taken lightly. So, you owe it to yourself and your family and your loved ones that have been with you throughout the entire journey. And when it's time for you to take that step, you should go full force the same way that you served this country. And for me, in my path, that served me exponentially, because that same type of enthusiasm, the same type of grit, the same type of embracing the suck, for lack of better words, has been, instrumental into me being successful in every area of my life. So the person you are is the person you are. And that person is what you will continue to be, regardless of the clothes that you wear. So take that as a badge of honor and be thankful and be grateful and go forth and prosper with the skills and, the mental fortitude and the spiritual groundness and the emotional integrity and the physical aspect of your life and those routines and habits you developed, and just 0 to 100 into whatever other field that you're excited about. And based off the retirement money and VA disability and whatever other streams or of income that you have coming in, utilize that to do something else that you've always wanted to do, whether it's coach high school football or middle school, or be a public speaker, or just even be a greeter at Walmart. Whatever your heart desires, just take it and be the best version of you that you can be, because that's all you can do on this planet, because everybody else is taken. So just be you, be confident, and the person that you've matured into, there's even another level of growth that you can get to outside of the military. So if I could trade places with you, I would, because I know how exciting it is to start a new path and a new journey. And when you go into it fearless and courageous, it's just amazing how many doors are open. If you'd like to connect with me for any words of advice or wisdom, or you need a friend, or just some encouragement, I'm more than willing to open myself up for that. You can contact me on LinkedIn. You can contact me via email at antoinehood@gmail.com. So it's pretty simple. First, last name, no dashes, nothing crazy. So feel free to reach out, and I will definitely do my best to respond to everyone in a timely, professional manner as I continue my own path and journey. But I love any encouragement, any questions, anything that you have, and just continue just to be a trailblazer and a person of impact and purpose.